good morning and good evening, everybody. I'm really excited and looking forward for this fireside chat session with each one of you. And just talking about it, and I'll just introduce myself and on talking about the theme as well. So, again, hello everyone to the 11th panel session of a virtual roundtable program, which we called a soundboard. And the theme of the session is leaders in transition. In the last few roundtables, we have hosted over 35 business leaders globally who have shared with us their stories around career transitions and what it entails to build and navigate through the changing complexity of a traversing through job changes and be counted as the industry thought leader. Today is the 11th panel session, and I'm very excited to host it as a moderator and really looking forward for each one of you to talking more about it. So the theme of the today's program, the soundboard program, is turning challenges into opportunities, and we'll discuss some of the key stories around the ways careers are transformed and how to build and propagate through the resiliences of a transitionary career moves. So let me first take the chance to introduce about myself, and then I would like to have each one of you to introduce about yourself as well. So my name is Meghna Soni. I am the senior leader from the retail and the CPG business in HCLTech. I'm having almost 18 years of experience with HCLTech, and I've served various business engagement in the last 18 plus years. I'm the supercharged brand ambassador of HCL and a proud HCLite. So today I have with me the first speaker, which is Tony Jenkins. And if I talk about Anthony Jenkins, he is the designation senior director on information technology. Then the second speaker is Mamatha. She is the senior director of IT enterprise application. And then we have Guy Wolf, who is the senior advisor and former director. Tony, you want to start with yourself first?
Sure. Thank you for, again, hosting this conversation. I'm Tony Jenkins. As you mentioned, I'm assistant director here of IT initiatives at the University of Kansas Health System. An area that I'm responsible for is our IT business partner team. Also orchestrate the development of our AI Center of Excellence and health system strategy towards that new emerging technology. My work historically has emphasized responsible technology use and ethical design, also heavily focused on standardization of processes that will help ultimately improve efficiencies and improve patient care. My background, I have kind of a varied one. I've been in the IT space now for about 12 years. Previously to that, I'm a United States Naval veteran. And before that, I worked as a probation officer in the criminal justice field here. So I feel like I've had about 3 different careers, and then my last IT career has spanned everything from implementation, training of software systems to application design to analytics. And again, now merging more onto that business side of understanding how to align IT strategy to business strategy. So outside of work, I do serve as an ordained minister and do have a wonderful family, and it definitely has helped shape my knowledge and experience within leadership and the importance of interconnectedness, both in the professional and personal spheres. So again, thanks
great knowing about you, Anthony. I know family plays an important role in the career journey, right? So glad to know about you. So over to you, Mamatha.
Yeah, so I'm Mamatha Ramegowda. I have over 25 years of experience in IT across diverse industries like energy, motion control, and healthcare. My passion for math, which came naturally, led me to a career in STEM. I started as a developer and I've grown steadily within company and across them. Now I'm leading IT enterprise applications. From an education background, I have a bachelor's of engineering in computer engineering, and I did my master's in Columbus, Ohio, in computer science. So in my current role, I support and manage several different applications that support sales, marketing, and services. So it involves in finding technical solutions for business problems and get the business into the next level.
Thanks, Mamatha. Nice knowing you. As I said, right, we as a woman can accomplish anything. So glad to know about you. Okay, so over to you, Guy.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here. My current role, I am a consultant with Morris Technology Solutions, and I'm focused on establishing project management offices in healthcare organizations, building up the expertise of project managers along with the IT governance processes. Over the course of my career, my focus has been in information technology, on the outsourcing side. So I've managed bringing on new accounts from California, Chicago, Ohio, New Delhi, India, London, England. So I've gotten to enjoy quite a bit of the world. Prior to that, I'm a Army veteran. So Tony, go Army.
So with that, I think let me just talk about the questions, and then I'll hand over to you to the stories or the answers that you have. So the first one is, how do you view the challenges as they come in normal course of career transformation, especially during these times of unprecedented, globally evolved times? So any one of you feel free to answer.
Well, since I introduced last, I'll go ahead and take first crack at this, if that's all right.
All right, sure.
A few years ago, I was in a meeting with several other senior managers in the company, and the question came up, how many in this room think you'll be in the same role a year from now? And out of the 12 people there, 10 hands went up right away. They were pretty certain. Any guesses how many were still in that role?
2 or 3.
Yeah,
The
2.
3? Oh.
Two.
Only 2?
Just 2. And I think it points out that this is not strange, that one of the first things to get our heads around is that transitions or change is just a normal part of what we're doing. Long ago, women had a certain set of roles they could do, men had some, but those were also limited. Mostly, if your father was a shoemaker, you learned to be a shoemaker. That's what you did for your life. Those have gone away. And in addition, in the world of industry, competitors had operations. Then they differentiated themselves from other companies based on how well they did those. And projects were occasional and hard and unusual. And we were all happy when they were done so we could go back to business as usual. But that switched, and now projects are the differentiating aspect of a company, how well they handle change. So I would say the first thing is get our heads around, we're always in transition. Expect that, plan for it, that's your career.
Yeah, I think I completely agree to it, and I can relate to the answer. Anybody else wants to add anything on top of it? Tony, you or Mamatha?
Sure. Especially, the transformation are always challenging. And then when you had the unprecedented global circumstance, it adds a new layer, right? With the globalization, automation, and technological advances, and especially with the remote work offers flexibility, it also presents challenges in building connection and maintaining work-life balance. And this economic downturns also makes you feel the job insecurity as well. I feel like, if we are more proactive to manage these challenges, basically, continuously updating your knowledge and skill set to stay relevant in this ever-changing job market and industry needs, and also work on building strong networks by connecting with professionals in the same field or with those you admire, right? And so these connections can actually provide you valuable advice, support, and potential job leads, because changes are inevitable. And but it can also be opportunities to learn, grow, and become more resilient professional, right? So by approaching these challenges with a proactive and growth-oriented mindset, I think we can position ourselves for success in these kind of unprecedented change.
No, I agree. Change is something that happens, right? It's something that you can't control. I think COVID has taught us a lot, right? That in one day your life can change a lot, right? So yeah, I agree. Anthony, you want to add on anything from your side?
Sure. The thing that I would just toss in, knowing that I brought into that introduction my military background and leadership, but really an important skill set that was able to provide me was a mission-focused adaptability and resilience. And in the world specifically where I am in technology and healthcare, it's very fast evolving, it's very complicated. There's a lot of regulations that are constantly changing what is normal and how we should be approaching our work. And so understanding that there's times where you must pivot and you must position yourselves and your teams to kind of take on new responsibilities that may not even have been in the original job description, but doing that with the willingness to leverage relationships and be able to speak openly and honestly really has been able to take those unprecedented challenges, as you mentioned, and really transition those into strategic opportunities. So kind of a motto of mine is always aiming for simplicity, especially within our increasingly complicated technology world that we live in, right? Asking ourselves, at what point is technology contributing to our success as a society, and at what point is it causing us more stress and hindrance due to its kind of, again, over the top complexity at times. So I would just say view challenges within your career transformations as an opportunity to adapt, to be resilient, and to have a willingness to go where the mission of your organization needs you to go.
Agree. I think I completely agree to it. Thanks to each one of you for providing insights to it. The next one is my favorite, and I think I also want to understand. So, what was the best advice you have ever received from your mentors or seniors when you were growing in your professional career across organizations? So, can you share some memories from that? And I think everybody must have had some mentor, right, through which you have now succeeded through the path. So, anyone wants to answer?
So really the best piece of advice that I've received that has came into effect multiple times throughout my career is always approach every relationship and every scenario with curiosity. Making sure you understand the intentions and the context, but right, most people are not trying to make your life miserable, right? Most people are trying to help. And if you approach everything with positive intentions, knowing that everyone is doing their best, there's always some who aren't. But if you approach with everyone is doing their best and you're just curious at why a decision was made, or if you don't understand maybe that North Star that you've been asked to kind of go towards, it's up to you as leaders to be asking those questions. And to be honest, I think there's a fear that people are going to be a little taken aback, like, wait, someone's questioning my judgment if I have to ask them why. And I think I've learned the opposite over the years is truly the leaders that you're interacting with are more comfortable with you when you start asking them why, trying to understand their motivations, and then allow for that collaborative nature to kind of move everyone forward in the right direction. So best piece of advice is to continue to be curious. And I think that growth mindset that you had mentioned previously is very important. Just a willingness to learn. And again, what you joined up to do may not be the most important mission today. And so having kind of an open mind to taking on new responsibilities as they come.
Yeah, and I think I like the approach to be positive, right? A lot of people give up so early in the game and then they realize, okay, so it's important to be more positive rather than having any negative approach. Yeah, Mamatha, you want to add
Sure.
anything on it?
For me, there were two that was like the best one. The one was very early on is to develop transferable skills, right? So you can have expertise in a particular software or an industry. That's valuable, but developing transferable skills like teamwork, problem solving, critical thinking, relationship building, strong communications that are applicable across different fields and organization. I was actually taught once on how to sell, meaning, I can have the greatest product, right? But to know how to articulate the product can solve the problem the customer is facing. Until I do that, I don't have a sale. The second one was actually, this has helped me a lot, is don't wait for the recognition to come your way. Articulating our accomplishments and value proposition effectively is important, especially when we're considering promotions and new opportunities with different organizations. That actually helped me promote myself and not wait for recognition has got me to where I am today.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice, Mamatha. Anything from your side, Guy? I want to understand what are your memories in terms of the advice that you received from your mentors or seniors.
Many years ago, I was confronted with having to shovel the neighbor's sidewalk of snow, and it was just a chore. And my mom came out and showed me that if you make it a game, every job can be joyous. And And that lesson has lasted me through all sorts of jobs, even if I didn't like them going in. And, I want to pick up on something that Tony said about going in with an assumption that people are not trying to make your life miserable. And in general, I would say, Tony, that's probably 99% correct. Maybe a little less, but close to that. I think many people, especially if you're over 30 years old listening to that, have had counter examples that have really pushed them into a wariness. But I would say, go with Tony's advice on the assumption going in. Sure, it's going to happen.
I think Tony got all the very good people in his life. He's blessed.
Right. Well, I don't think so, but I still think his postulate there is right. If you go in with that attitude, the very few times when that's not true, you'll get by them. But the 99% where it is, that will really, really help you.
I agree. Thank you so much. With that, the next one is, how did you perceive the initial phases of the career transition and how your thought process evolved to become more stronger, obviously better decision making, individual towards career progressions?
Okay, I can start this one. The initial phases, of career transitions are like roller coaster of emotions, especially when changing job. I think when I first made a big change in the job, it was felt uncertain, unsure, right? Myself, leaving the familiar is scary, right? So I was doubtful about my capabilities, what my impact as the role is. But at the same time, it was thrilling to start something new. I think embracing it as an opportunity for exploration and like challenging that energy into researching and planning kind of helped me overcome that fear. I think once that overcame, the next change was easy. Next change for not just for the company change, right? But within the company, when the department changed, the roles and responsibility, you kind of get that confidence that, we can do this. We'll start to trust our decision. And then we see that switching into the success. I think we become much better decision maker with that experience. I think fundamentally, basically researching thoroughly before making any major decisions. I think weighing the pros and cons, talking to advisors, mentors, and finally trusting your gut. It'll help you through these phases.
I agree. Do you want to add, Guy, anything on top of it?
Yeah, I think I would agree with the previous comments that we all suffer from a fear of being judged, and putting that aside and screwing your courage to the sticking point and just not worrying about failure. It's every day just trying to get through that. The fear doesn't go away, you just manage it.
Yeah. I think any phase of the career transition can be tough as you move in from the decision and evaluation of, do I need to be moving on to a new career and a new profession? I think even going back to there's a thought process that starts to generate, like, am I good enough to apply for other things? Do I have the skills necessary? And it's like you overcome that fear, you take a risk, and you go ahead and drop your application and your resume in, and then you don't hear back, and you're waiting, and you're like, I knew it, I wasn't good enough. See, no one's getting back to me. And I think you can, if you're not careful, it's easy to fall into that self-doubt of, your journey, your pathway, especially if you're in a knowledge worker sort of environment where you've just picked up a few skills here or there, right? And as you've moved through the variety of roles that I've had all within the IT space, I've moved a little bit more into the portfolio, program, project management kind of center, and it's just different. And so as you bring those skill sets forward, it's sometimes hard to see the fact that, wait, I have experience and exposure in a lot of areas that are going to make me a great candidate for a leadership role, no matter if I have, quote, skills in that particular area or not. So just continuing to trust yourself that, again, you likely are more powerful than you believe in your mind when it comes to your ability to handle that new work. So being able to handle that transition does require some discipline, does require kind of a mission focus on the new context. I think, again, I mentioned this probably in that first question, that resilience, the ability to adapt to the changing situation, being able to just go as much as you can through that unfamiliar territory and just realize at some point everyone's been there. And there's certain jobs that I would say have a very long lead time before you feel comfortable. And that's okay. And I think as leaders, though, it's up to us to be reminding fulfilling those new roles, that maybe it does take 12 months, maybe it does take 16 months to feel comfortable or at least understand the nuances of that organization. So I think imperative to leverage your discomfort at times and just be willing to accept that things may not be as easy as you thought they were, but that doesn't mean you should be doubting your abilities to do that work.
Yeah, I completely agree to it, and I think thanks for explaining that. I think this is definitely a great advice, because most of the people who need to understand, right? They generally lack in the decision making, so it's important to learn that trait. So the next one is what are few of the top traits and characteristics that the professional should display in the unknown territories of career transformation and transitions? I think this is very, very important. I also want to learn more about it from the traits and characteristics perspective.
I think that this question kind of got me thinking about my times that when I changed the career, right? I think the first and foremost is being curious and open, to Tony's point, right? Being open-minded and willingness to also learn new things and make new relationship goes a long way. And taking initiatives and being proactive, because you're new, so don't wait for it to come to you. Take charge of your career and actively seek learning experiences, networking opportunities. And another one, most important, sometimes I have to remind myself, is being more self-aware, because understanding the strength of what we have, the weaknesses and the values and the interest, will kind of help you realize your potential with the career paths and capabilities that fit the needs, and being adaptive and flexible, right? Because with new situation, we have to adjust to the challenges. Work is always constantly changing, not in every day, but like there is changing. So being very adaptive to that. And again, to what Tony had mentioned previously about resilience, you have to, when there are setbacks and challenges along the way, being able to bounce back from these and keep moving forward is crucial to progress in the career. So,
yeah, I think you have completely new thoughts to it. So I just want to hear more from you as well.
Yeah, on the traits. I once had a chief information officer who was talking about his career progression, and people were telling him that when he moved from the chief technology officer to the CIO role, that he would have to cultivate relationships. He said, "Guy, I'm an engineer. I don't cultivate relationships. I endure them." And what it told me is, well, that's how he's progressed thus far, but this is an opportunity for him to progress more, and he knew that. So, like our previous comments here from Mamatha, it's develop those skills. We all have them. We need to understand ourselves. What are the skills that we have that we can develop, our strengths, and use those to leverage into the next position.
Yeah, I'm going to tie into that as well, to just say from we're very well, especially in leadership roles, typically hear the terms of capital. We need to be investing capital. And most times people end up going more the financial side. And I would strongly suggest that, right, as folks are progressing throughout their careers, they may have a skill that they've learned, right, in college, let's say, or at university. And that skill they continue to cultivate in kind of their entry-level positions, right? And we typically refer to those as those technical or kind of hard skills. And then as they're kind of being mentored and growing up through the ranks, then they end up having some exposure to strategic partnerships and relationships and who you know starts to help influence the success of your thing that you were trying to showcase your skill for. So then you start kind of leveraging new skills as you move along, and really figuring out how to cultivate the right mix of your intellectual capital with your relationship capital, all of which kind of contributes to you being more well-rounded. So, I love to, again, always bring things back to kind of our interconnectedness and responsible technology use. And so I think a really good trait to have right now is embracing simplicity. There's so many things that we can be doing, and we try to, and I historically have tried to fix people problems by having very strict process. Guy, I'm sure maybe with some of the tech governance space, right, you see that as well, where you've got people who are consistently approving things that we might not have the resources to be able to deliver on. And how do you find the best project and the best investment? If your executives align to approving things or just approving to improve, then that's a problem that we have. And I would say, let's get more process. But I realized as I've kind of progressed through these roles, using that relationship capital to go have a conversation about what that's causing, the impacts, and then addressing it from a people perspective, not always the rigid process perspective. So embrace simplicity. We have tons of complexity with technology. We have a lot in our most organizations have probably more tools than they need. In fact, most probably don't know how many tools that they have that can do similar things. So making sure that you're open to learn and growth is truly just going to help you be able to navigate through this.
Yeah, I think I like the thought of embracing simplicity. I've heard so far embracing equity as well, but simplicity is very, very important, right? I think this is one of the most important trait. With that, I think that's the last question. But this is also another favorite of mine, because I really want to understand from your own professional experiences, any guidance from you out of your own professional experiences and as a mentor for young professionals, especially to adopt to new networking environment and working with new stakeholders. So obviously there are a lot of freshers who joins the organization and they want to learn from you. So any guidance from you out of your own professional experience that you want to give it to the new people or the young professionals?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start on this one, I guess. Two things. One, and I learned this in my first transition coming out of the Army and going into industry. And I remember hearing so many people caution me about, you have a military background, we're looking for skills in industry. And so don't think about transferable skills, maybe a few like leadership. What I found out real quickly once I made that move is that almost all the skills that I had are transferable. Now, knowing what weight of C4 to use on a tree to blow it apart, that maybe not that one, but just about everything I did day in and day out is transferable. And it got me to thinking that, well, maybe that's just an old wives' tale. It's just not true. So I would say caution against one fear, which is that your skills aren't transferable. And then the second is, and maybe it's related, is courage to be wrong. Most of the things that we do, we aren't right the first time. We do this with software, we do this with project plans, presentations, all the time. So I would say having that courage to be wrong and taking all of that criticism as constructive and helping us grow is the other trait. So courage in both cases.
Yeah, I completely agree to it, and I can relate to it personally as well. Over to you, Mamatha, or Anthony, you want to add?
Yeah. So I think for especially the young professionals, be a quick learner, by observe and ask questions, right? Especially when you're in a new workplace, you pay attention to the workplace norms, the communication style, and the unspoken rules, right? Like, don't hesitate to ask questions from colleagues or, to clarify doubts or whatnot. I mean, sometimes, this is having a hard time see this in younger generation where, spend extra time, don't think that this is an 8-hour job. I put in my 8 hour, I'll go home. at least when I had started, it was 12 hours because there was so much to learn. So I would spend extra hours to learn and discover the things, especially the unknowns. And the second thing is like seek for mentorship. I think finding a mentor early on can kind of guide you through the company culture, answer specific questions, especially if you are within the same department or a senior colleague as well. I think will be helpful. And then this one is actually works out well is the over communicate, because when you're starting fresh, it's better to err in the side of over communicating, keeping your stakeholders informed about your progress and asking clarifying questions when needed, until you get to know what the style is, what's required, right? But better to be at over communicate on your progress. And Yeah, I think those are some things that I think I would like to share with the young professionals.
I think that's really great because it's important to be proactive, right, rather than not communicating. So I like the idea you said to over communicate. What I feel is generally we wait for the appraisal cycle or the performance feedback. We never communicates with our mentor, and at the end of the year, if he or she gives the feedback, then we realize okay, we are lagging there. So in my career journey, I have never waited for my performance feedback to be discussed with my mentor. I always had this opportunity to over communicate and ask for more growth opportunities. That's how I have progressed in HCL as well, because it's important, and I like the idea of having a good mentor as well, right? It's very important because if you get that mentor and he or she will guide you through the career journey, that will really help. So, Tony, from your side, I think it's important to understand your perspective as well on it.
Yeah. A lot of the areas that we've touched on thus far today, I think, is applicable regardless of where you're at in your career. If you're transitioning from, again, a university school, other job perspective into the field, or whether you're transitioning as a leader from a different industry into technology industry, or we talked a lot about just the ability to be resilient and adaptable and just kind of go with the flow. I would say that kind of aligns itself again with always upskilling, always looking at the next thing that's coming, making sure you're staying in front of the wave. Obviously, in the tech space right now, we hear a lot about artificial intelligence. And I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to be an expert in how to create algorithms and to deploy them, but I do think everyone needs to have an understanding of what it is and what it isn't and how it can be useful. And the new style of products that's going to start bringing into our technology stacks is just basic. Whereas, even just a few years ago, that was very cutting edge. So always being aware of where there are still business problems that you have some control over that you can help solve. There at no point should anyone say that's not my job. You can always suggest that, hey, maybe I have other things I should be spending my time on. Have a good open dialogue with your direct upline and your management team to understand, again, the context of what they're asking, and feel free to question the why. Why are you having me do that thing? And I think if we had more folks who understood the why, one, that would force leaders to explain themselves, and maybe they would be receptive to the fact that idea may not actually work, or it's maybe been tried before. But secondarily, it just creates an opportunity for everyone to be able to speak their truth. And if what we're learning about the younger generations coming up and through into the workplace today is they want technical skills, they want to be able to understand the context and the why. This is how we've done it, or this is what our culture says we're going to do, that doesn't tend to fly any longer. So just making sure that you take an opportunity to really ask those questions up front is going to help you make sure you're investing time in the right place. And I would wholeheartedly agree that I think most of us in our early careers, there was a little bit of a sacrifice that had to be made. And at no point would I suggest that you work yourselves to the point of burnout and that you're neglecting other responsibilities in life. But I also feel that at times, if you want to be good at something and you want to be great and be better, then it's going to take a little more time than the others. And I feel like that was the secret for a lot of folks who advanced well in the military. I think that's the same secret for the corporate America, is if you want to be recognized for your hard work and you want to be promoted, There is always going to be some who get that promotion even if you don't feel they deserve it, but by and far, most only get promoted if they do deserve it. So back to, again, assuming positive intentions, most leaders want to promote the right people. So help your leaders understand who the right person is for that job. And if you're sitting quietly at your desk in a remote work environment, you may or may not be getting the recognition that you deserve based on kind of how we work today. So all kind of comes back to being aware of what's going on around you, asking the right questions, and always being willing to jump in and help. That's going to by and far get you more good face time with your leadership team and meeting the right problems your organization needs you to.
I completely agree. But do you want to maybe talk about any of your role model, because seems like you've been blessed, right? So I just want to know any of your role model, whom do you think in your career journey who has played a very, very important role?
I've been blessed with a lot of great leaders. I can't necessarily say a person has been the most instrumental in my journey. There's been a few who I've noticed maybe observed specific traits within me before I did, or made suggestions on, you might enjoy this path over here. I mentioned working in a variety of roles within the IT space. I was on the application design side, and then I kind of moved into the analytics reporting side. And at first I was like, that was probably back in 2010, 2012 timeframe. And I was just like, man, that does reporting? No, that doesn't sound fun. Really? They're just going to go pull data out? And obviously that was right when we were kind of starting to move into more of the big data space. And so there's an individual who suggested, I think this is really right up your alley. You should look into it. And so I think sometimes recognizing that others may know more than you about even what's best for you if you give them that opportunity. So again, I've been very blessed in the time that I've worked at the health system here to have some great leaders. There's a few military leaders that kind of stick out in my mind that just shaped me from a just overall good human being perspective. And I'm learning again as life goes on that a lot of our personal and professional lives really shouldn't be overly siloed. That's who we are. So if we're kind outside of work, I think it makes sense to be kind at work and to help others along the way. Having kind of a servant mindset is really important. Approaching things with humility is another thing that a leader has always kind of positioned to just say, you may be the smartest person in the room, but what does it mean when you try and announce that to everyone, right? And so wouldn't necessarily name drop any specific person, but I've had a lot who've contributed to kind of my tool set that I get to carry along with me.
Yeah, as I said, Guy, you want to add any mentor name from your side or the role model?
Echo what Tony was talking about. It'd be hard for me to recount all of the just outstanding leaders I've had, including my piano teacher. What a mentor he was. I saw him every week for 12 years, and that certainly made a difference. I will say one thing though. One aspect of my role as a consultant is I deal with many customers in sequence, and one of my first missions when I get with that client is to cultivate a mini mentor, or not a mini mentor, a mentor at that location. This is somebody who I can be open with, can share ideas without that negative repercussion about maybe they're wrong, and get that shape. And that really makes not just me more successful, but that client too, because they're really getting me aligned to pursue their goals. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship to establish those mentors early.
Thank you so much. Mamatha, you want to add?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, throughout my 25 years, it's sad that I never had a female boss. So all my male bosses were very supportive, encouraging, So what I would do is I would find a female leader, another, whether it's marketing or sales or another departments, to kind of help navigate some of the challenges we women leaders have. The Lean In book from Sheryl Sandberg was an eye-opening. Some of the things we do, females, without even realizing we do, help me kind of be more cautious where we sit in a meeting room or how we speak. It was just very helpful. For me, my biggest support has been my family. My husband, I've been married for 25 years. He's a big champion. I will sometimes be doubting myself. It's like, oh, you can do it. And as my kids got older, and sometimes it's surprising to see that they see more that I can do than I believe in myself. I think the family plays a big role in any career transition or transformations, and I'm very thankful for that. And I really appreciate you organizing this. I got to learn a lot from Gay. I got to learn from Tony and yourself as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mamta, and I completely agree. Family is the important and the biggest supporter, especially in the woman journey, because you have to do multitasking. You have to manage home, and then you have to manage your work life as well. With the kids, it becomes difficult. And I'll say it's not only for women, but even men plays a very very important role here, right? And I've seen every man now also wants that. Our girl succeeds in life. So kudos to each one of you, Tony, Guy. I know you also played a very important role in your family as well, right? So with every supporter, I think that's the best way we succeed. I am really glad and privileged that I was able to host this fireside chat session with each one of you. It was really inspiring to hear the journey from each one of you, and your answers are amazing. I think especially the youngest generation would like to hear and understand and get inspired from each one of you. So thanks first of all for taking out time and really inspire us.